I'm Attorney Tiffany Brown, and welcome to the Sweet and Legal Tips. I'm here once again with my grandmother.
It is delightful to be here today, and we're going to share a very nutritious dessert with you that can be used with leftover turkey, salads, fruit salads, and it is delicious. Christmas time is almost here. Be full of joy, peace, and happiness. Tiffany?
Yes. So tonight we're going to be making nutty finger cookies. They're a nice, sweet, chewy cookie that has pecans in it. As you can tell from my last live, we like desserts with nuts in it.
Yes.
Because our last live we did a nutty chewy bar. Tonight we're doing a nutty cookie. So I'm excited to be in the kitchen here once again with my grandmother. And tonight we will be discussing the importance of estate planning. Estate planning is creating a document to plan for your future. Your estate is the things that you have that you will leave down to your heirs or your children and children's children. So it's very important that when you own things, you have property, that you plan what to do when the next thing happens, such as passing away. We know, unfortunately, no one wants to talk about estate planning because no one wants to talk about someone losing their life. However, it's very important because when you have property, you have things that are of, great stature, you should know what to do with it next. Because if you don't plan to do something with it, then when it happens, you don't know what would happen to it. So, yeah, so we're going to get started. And as we get started, I will be discussing about the wills. So first, we are going to mix our butter margarine. 2 sticks of margarine is 1 cup of margarine. So we need 1 cup of margarine. And so a will is just a document, a legal document that it helps you plan what to do with your property. In a will, normally people leave property, whether it's real or personal. So real property is things such as land and homes. Personal property is things such as cars, jewelry, things inside of a home. All those things are personal property. In law school, we learned that real property, things that come from the ground. So any type of land, whether a house owner or not, is real property. Personal things are things that you can pick up and carry away.
So while you're in your kitchen, just stirring up some goodies for the Christmas holidays, you need to think about what it is that you need to put on paper so that your family, at your death, your family will know what to do.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with dying, because we certainly chose not to come and live forever. Yes. Your 2 sticks of butter, what else?
Yes. We're also going to add 1/4 cup of sugar and 3 tablespoons of Cairo syrup. So, Grandma, can you tell them what the syrup is?
Yeah, Cairo syrup is a clear syrup, very sweet, and over the years we use it in cookies, but we older girls used to put it in the baby's milk, and it would give a lovely taste. And now we're putting it in the cookies, and it'll do the same thing.
Yes.
All right, stir that kind of well.
Yes.
Voila.
So let me tell you who can make a will. So anyone that is in a sound mind, which means is mentally capable, and that of the age of 18, an adult, not a minor age, can make a will. And when the person make a will, they put things in it such as, like I said, personal property. So if you have a home or multiple homes, that's something that you will put in a will, and you will put who you want to leave it to. So in the will, you can leave it to a best friend, siblings, husband, spouse, children. It's very common for people to leave their property to their children and their husband. But if you don't have a husband, you can leave it to a favorite niece, a cousin, an aunt. So it doesn't really matter who you leave it to. But the will dictates who you leave it to. So you have a choice of making a decision of who you want to leave your property to. So it's very important, because if you do not create a will, your estate will go through what we call intestate succession. And the intestate succession is just basically when someone dies without the will, the estate then decides how to distribute the property. And in the way that they decide to distribute the property, they first look at and see if you have a spouse and children. If you have a spouse and children, then they will divide it there. If you do not have a spouse or children, then they will then give it to your siblings. Well, first your parents, and then if your parents aren't living, then they will give it to your siblings. So the thing about intestate succession is that it can get very complicated and a lot of hands can be in the jar. Versus when you create a will, you dictate exactly where your property goes. So it's much easier in the process. Once you create a will, you will file it with the court. So the court will have the will, and then you also will have your own copy of the will. And then therefore, when someone passes away, the person, that's your personal representative, which is something that you put in your will. So personal representative is a person that you decide that will handle your affairs whenever your will needs to be executed. So you can go ahead.
Yes.
So we're adding the vanilla flavor.
And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla flavor. And while you're stirring that, Tiff, it is wise to leave a will.
Yes.
It is especially those of us that are 65 plus.
Yes.
Many of us have nice diamond rings. Many of us have very nice pearls that has been passed down through generations. And I certainly don't want my children wearing my pearls and not knowing the value of them.
Yes.
I want them to know what to do with it.
Yes.
Now we want to add 2 cups of
Flour.
self-rising flour, and our recipe will remind you of just a bread, a lovely bread. Here we are, mixing it, and as she stirs it, it's certainly going to get softer. Now
Yes.
tell me, Tiff, in concern with the will, if we don't have children, can we say to a neighbor or a friend? Now supposing your niece or nephews, they are not quite up to par in taking care of what they have. So how are you going to leave those valuable things to them?
Yeah, so that is really why a will is very important, because in the will, when you state exactly where and who you want to leave your property to, it's very hard to contest it. So once again, I stated that to create a person that can create a will, so a person that's in their sound mind, which means they are mentally capable of, creating a will. So as you can see, my grandmother is definitely in her sound mind. So she can today decide who she wants to leave things to, and it will just make it easier because we know that she's in her sound mind. She was in the right mind to say she do not want this person to get something, and she wants this person to get something. Also, being that, like you stated, a lot of people have a lot of things. When a person has a lot of things and they want to leave specific things to people, you can put that in your will. So let me give you an example. So you have nice china, you have property that you might want to leave to a specific person. So if you put that in your will, then that piece of property will go directly to that person. However, if you do not put in your will who your washing machine and dryer will go to, then what will happen is that part of your property will go through intestate succession, which means that the state will say, okay, well, her children will split that price of her washing machine and dryer down divided into different parts. So the importance of will is just to make sure that all the property that you have, while you're still able to remember everything that you have, to put that in a document and think about who you want to give it to, like you said, who you think that will definitely value it,
Yes.
so that when the time comes, your property can, stay in the family and be taken care of afterwards.
Very good.
And so there's some people that may be watching that have already created a will and some circumstances have changed. So when you want to change a will or revoke the previous will, you can do that. So if you have a will, you want to change some things or add some things, that is very much possible. To add, the easiest way to change your will is to simply revoke the current will and create a totally new one. And in that, when you seek an attorney and they'll ask you if you had a current will, they will know what to word in the new will. They will know what to say in the new will to revoke your previous will. So it's very important that if you have a will, you want to change some things, you can do it. It's not a hard process, but just make sure you speak with an attorney and they will help you do that. And to add things to your will, the same thing. Also, I spoke of things that go inside of the will. So things that go inside of your will is distributing, how you want to distribute your personal real property. So other things that go inside the will is who you appoint as your personal representative. So in the part of the will, it will say, I want this person to be my personal representative. A personal representative is a person that will handle your estate affairs at the coming of the execution of your will. Also, things that are stated in the will is that if you are a person and you have like a minor child in your care in the will, you can state who you want your minor child to stay with. I know a lot of people have godparents and godparents for their children. So if you have godparents, you want, and the purpose of a godparent is that when you pass away, your child will go with your godparent. I know that a lot of people don't use that for that reason nowadays. So if you have a minor child and you want to create a will, you should think about who it is that you want to leave your children with, and put that in your will. So I just told you about the things that you put in your will. Things you do not put in your will is things such as property that you own with someone else. So what does that mean? If I own a house, but I own it as a tenant in common with a roommate or something like that, or someone that I live with, so we both own the home. So say me and my brother own a home together. In my will, I can't put leave the house to someone because my brother owns half of that home as well. So what I can do is state how I want my part to be distributed. However, I cannot leave a whole home to someone else when I own half of it with someone else. Another thing that doesn't go into a will is a lot of people like to ask me, can they leave money to pets and stuff like that? As much as I know everyone loves their pets nowadays, sometimes more than they love other people, you cannot leave funds for a dog because a dog can't spend money. However, what you can do in your will is, state who you want your dog to go to. So if you have a dog and you want to put your dog in the will, only thing you can really say is that I want this person to have my dog. Because if you have a really nice dog and you pass away, I'm pretty sure people are going to be fighting for your dog. So you can put that in your will, but you cannot leave money to a dog in a will.
Okay. Now, we've added a cup or a half cup of chopped nuts. And now we are ready to roll our nut fingers into shapes as such.
Yes.
And we did one beforehand to save time, to utilize time tonight. And it looks just like dough, bread. And this will stay in your refrigerator for a week. And then you can roll it out and bake it. And what degree are we going to bake it?
You're going to bake it in a 250-degree oven. And you're going to bake it for about 10 minutes. So 250 degrees, not too hot. You don't want the oven too hot. You don't want to bake it for too long. So only 10 minutes. I'm baking the.
All right, well, show them the one that you rolled out this afternoon.
Okay. So here are a picture of, actual nutty fingers that we created. And after you bake the cookies, while they're still warm, you also roll them in powdered sugar for the topping. They're very delicious. Our family loves them. Every year, my grandmother, she makes each family a whole batch because this is our favorite cookie. But also, just want to wrap up the discussion on the wills. Also, I say the things that you cannot put in the will. I know a lot of people, at the time of death, after the funeral, it's very hard for people to want to go to the next step and go to probate. And so a lot of people think that they want to avoid probate by creating a will. But creating a will does not avoid probate. Probate is something that you have to do. It's a state thing, so you have to go through probate. But a will will help the probate go smoother. Many times, because the will have 1, 2, 3. The court will give you a list of things you need to do, and if you look at the will with the list of things you need to do, you can get those things out down. However, it does take time for probate. So probate can take from 3 months to a year to close. But be patient, because when it comes to property, property is very important. It's one of the the richest things to have in this world today. Also, I want to talk about the importance of. I talk about having a will. The importance of having a will is to make sure that you know who is getting your property and how it's being distributed. But also, there are things such as power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney. So, power of attorney is a document that is created that helps whenever you are in a position that you cannot be stable enough to do something. So I say that to create a will, you have to be in a sound mind, mentally capable. But a power of attorney is when you're not mentally capable of handling certain things, such as you're physically impaired or mentally impaired to pay your bills. So power of attorney is a document that states, if I cannot make them sound decisions to pay my bills or to do this thing, this person's going to handle that for me.
All right, so therefore, we need to make sure there are persons with the power of attorney before we get to be 70 years old,
Yes,
right?
yes. And as well as, so it's a power of attorney that's more so on the handling your finances. And there's the healthcare power of attorney. The healthcare power of attorney is a document that's for when you are in the hospital. And some people, when they get to a certain stage in the hospital, whether it's vegetation stage, brain dead, family have that hard decisions to make whether or not they want to pull the plug or not. So, we don't know until you're in that situation, but the healthcare power of attorney allows the person to make a decision that, okay, if I'm ever in a vegetation stage or in a brain damage stage, do not allow me to live more than 2 days, or do not allow me to, and then it will leave that person they put in their healthcare power of attorney to bring forth that document and say, this is what they wish, so therefore, let's, fulfill that. So it's more so, healthcare power of attorney and wills allows the person to make sure that their last days go the way they planned it and not the way that their family wanted to go. Because we know, it's a hard time when losing a loved one. So many times family, they bicker during that time because one wants to let the person stay on life support for the rest of their life. The other person's like, I don't want to see my family like this. So that gives the children and the family take their hands out of it, and it just lets you make that decision for yourself. So it's very important to create those things. Just like my grandmother said, when you get to the age of 65, 70, and you're still in that right mind, to create these documents so that you can make it less stressful for your family, less stressful for you, because you will be worried about it. I know, grandmothers and grandfathers, they worry about their children, because they know that day is coming. So if you want to take some stress off of yourself and others, it's very important to create that document. And I do create wills, so therefore, come see me, Attorney Tiffany Brown, at the law office of Tiffany J. Brown. My office is located in the Florence Business Technology Center, and my phone number is 843-610-7969. So if you would like to schedule an appointment to talk about your estate planning, talk about what it is that you want to do to protect yourself and protect your family from the unknown, please feel free, and we can schedule a consultation for that.
And roll your nutty fingers as if you're eating bread. Bake it with joy and pleasure, and enjoy your delicious nutty fingers.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you all. I hope you enjoyed our quick, sweet, and legal tips on will estate planning. I hope you enjoy your holiday season. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year's. We will be back next year in 2020 for a new sweet and legal tips. And once again, our nutty finger cookie bars and